Today in Questions That Matter, we're asking, what will happen to Egypt in the last days? Here's John Ecob from the Herald of Hope.
Egypt will have a significant role after the rapture of the church. We read about that in Daniel chapter 11. They are called the King of the South, that will push at Israel during the first half of the tribulation. That will be one of the earliest things that will happen after the rapture. That's in Daniel chapter 11, and beginning from about verse 36 down to verse 45, we have a description of the first half of the tribulation, and Egypt, the king of the south, will be the first one to take action against Israel. But then Egypt is going to suffer terribly in the tribulation. Egypt has fought against Israel. Egypt, being the largest of the Arab countries, has been the leader of the various Arab attacks on the land of Israel since 1948. And the Yom Kippur War was led by Egypt, and they almost succeeded in overthrowing the Israeli forces. Egypt had a real difficult problem for a while when the Muslim Brotherhood took over. And you might remember how that the leader of Egypt was put in prison, and the military had to step in to preserve Egypt. Egypt has that 100 million people. Only 10% are Coptics, the rest are the Arab-type people. And Egypt has a large military force. Egypt is going to be judged very much in the first half of the tribulation. Things are going to change in Egypt. At the moment, Egypt has a peace treaty with Israel. I was in Jerusalem the day that President Sadat flew in to address the parliament in Israel, and he made peace. He was a brave man, but of course he paid the price. He was assassinated by military people at a military parade later on. The Muslim Brotherhood are still a threat in Egypt, and there is still persecution of the Coptic Christians, and there is still a lot of danger. The Muslim Brotherhood is a terrorist organization, and they will continue to be a problem. And at the beginning of the tribulation, they are going to actually again invade Israel. And the Bible tells us in Isaiah chapter 19 that God is going to judge them. You see, Israel will be turning to the Lord, and the 144,000 Jewish men will be preaching the gospel of the kingdom, and God is going to judge them. And Isaiah chapter 19 says, I will set the Egyptians against the Egyptians, and they shall fight every one against his brother. So there's going to be like a civil war in Egypt. And in verse 11 it says, surely the princes of Zon, that is Egypt, are fools, and the counsel of the wise counselors of Pharaoh is become brutish. The wisdom of the Egyptian leaders is going to depart, and they're going to be in great strife. In fact, we're told that the river Nile is going to be dried up, and that the land of Judah shall be a terror to Egypt. Every one that maketh mention thereof shall be afraid in himself because of the counsel of the Lord of hosts, which he hath determined against it. So there is going to be civil war in Egypt and great trouble, and the land of the Nile River is going to dry up. Now that's possible today. Do you know, in Ethiopia today on the Blue Nile, they are building a great dam which will harness the waters of the Blue Nile. And the largest percentage of the water coming down the Nile to Egypt is totally dependent upon the River Nile. They have very little rainfall at all. And the Blue Nile is the source of most of the water. And the Ethiopians are building a dam there. It's called the Millennial Dam, and they can turn the water off at any time. And so it's going to happen during the Great Tribulation. And Egypt is going to be without water, and the River Nile will dry up, and there's going to be no work, and God is going to bring great judgment upon it. But in the midst of that, there is a note of hope, because it says that many of the Egyptians are going to turn to the Lord, and there's going to be a great revival in Egypt. And it says, the Lord shall be known to Egypt, and the Egyptians shall know the Lord in that day, and shall do sacrifice and oblation, yea, they shall vow a vow unto the Lord, and perform it. And the Lord shall smite Egypt, he shall smite and heal it, and they shall return even to the Lord, and he shall be entreated of them, and shall heal them. And in the last verse of that chapter says, whom the Lord of hosts shall bless, saying, blessed be Egypt my people, and Assyria, that is Iraq, the work of my hands, and Israel mine inheritance. The wonderful thing is that these Arab peoples are going to turn to Christ during the Great Tribulation. A wonderful thing, these people are Muslims today, but in the Great Tribulation, when the judgments of God are revealed, and God blesses Israel and delivers Israel, then the Muslim people are going to turn to Christ during that Great Tribulation. And Egypt will be a blessed country, according to this prophecy of Isaiah chapter 19.